Hi there, you're back. I thought you'd be out at the store getting a troutstickle. Anyway, my first guest rose to stardom when The Miracle Worker opened in New York in 1959. She was the youngest actress ever to star on Broadway and later won an Oscar for the same role in the film. She's been working ever since, and she's the president now of the Screen Actors Guild. Please welcome Patty Duke. Patty?
Threw that at me and said, "Tell my father I want to go home now."
My son is backstage.
Gorgeous baby. You've seen him on television before.
Yes, he's been on a few times. He's in
Adorable.
our promos. Well, thank you very much.
Watch out. You know, don't work with babies and dogs, did they tell you?
I know, in the promo we had a baby and a dog. And anyway, well, we're here.
You'll handle it.
Well, I love it. I love working with kids. I love danger, living through danger.
Well, we love watching you be dangerous.
Thank you for being here first. You know, I got to admit, I watched your show.
Yes, when you were Nicholas's age.
Yeah, cousins. Well, now, when was that on? Beginning? When did
Oh, 1965.
65.
In this very studio.
You did that here?
We did it, the last season of it, right here in this very studio.
So it's kind of nostalgic coming in.
Yes, it is. Very nostalgic. It's gotten a lot better since I was here. What do you know that I didn't know?
Well, it's still, you know, this is all frivolous. Behind it's still the same.
It's terrific. I have to tell you, I love this show.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Has nothing to do with you, kid.
Thank you very much. You can go now.
Okay.
Now, the feeling that you had when you played Helen Keller, can you remember back?
Sure.
That must have been terrific.
I can remember because it almost never goes away. You know,
Yeah.
It's not even filed anywhere. It's almost an instant memory of certainly the thrill of being on Broadway, the thrill of playing that part, the thrill of beating a grown-up up every night and having the audience applaud. You know, all that kind of antisocial behavior was heralded as wonderful. Also, I remember with great fondness the very first night I appeared in front of an audience. Mm-hmm. We got part of our audience from a whole other theater because an actor was ill and didn't go on that night. So what would have been a half a house for us turned out to be a full house, and they gave us 19 curtain calls. And wow. I was thrilled, but I thought that was the way it was supposed to be. I didn't know that several plays later, 1 or 2 curtain calls was about all you're going to
Some plays, a second night.
Indeed.
I think we have a couple of pictures from your early days on stage.
Oh, there, of course, is the wonderful Anne Bancroft. This is from the play, which was 1959, 1661, and that's me saying wah-wah. There she is again. This is from the movie, 2 years later, Anne Bancroft spelling teacher. And it was a wonderful moment. The clouds, it was as if Arthur Penn truly was omnipotent. The clouds moved away from my face just as a tear spilled out, and she was spelling teacher, and it was, you know, at least in filmdom, it was for us a miracle. Yeah,
and somebody said that Helen Keller came backstage once?
No, actually she didn't. What happened was Catherine Cornell came back, who was a friend of Helen's, and invited me to Helen Keller's home in Connecticut. And I went and spent the entire day with her. She was wonderful. She was 80 years old at that point. A very regal bearing the woman had. Sort of straight, you know, back, and just this aura of goodness came from her. She was also kind of jolly, like a grandma. I guess like the grandma I had always wanted and hadn't had. And she also had a terrific sense of humor. I remember her thinking that it was probably something she shouldn't tell to a 12-year-old. But she was very aggravated these days because her doctor was telling her that she had to cut back on her martini intake. And she wanted to know what the doctor thought was going to happen to her after all. She was already deaf-blind and no longer mute.
Yeah, you're ruining my fun.
So a couple of martinis wasn't going to hurt her at 80 years old. Yeah. I've been very blessed in my life in many ways, and certainly those memories are treasures that just stay bright and brilliant forever.
And you've worked constantly. I mean, or at least it seems like you stay working.
Yeah, well, you know, us actors, if you're out of work for 2 weeks, you think you're never going to work again. Actually, I seem to get that going long about the last week of any particular job. I'm sure I'll never work again. But I've worked. It's gone, you know, that roller coaster thing from wonderful films to not so wonderful.
Played a spider in
spiders, yeah. You know something? Of all the things I've done, that's the one that my sons cherish the most. They love to watch the little hourglass pulsate on Mom's belly On the big screen.
The kids are easily entertained.
Yes,
I guess.
they're stupid children. I raised very stupid children.
But you're the president of the Screen Actors Guild now.
I know.
Is that a lot of work?
Oh, yeah.
You think you like Ronald Reagan did? You think you'll go on and want to go into politics?
I hope I don't want to do it the way Reagan did. I don't know.
Yeah.
I leave the door open to all kinds of
yeah.
things. It's a lot of work. It's sometimes fun. It's sometimes, and most times, very aggravating and frustrating. But I'm beginning, for the first time in my life, to be a person who likes solving problems. So I found the right place for myself.
Yeah, now your children are following in your footsteps, or both?
My children are, yeah, I sort of gave them a hint, I guess, and as did their father, as far as careers are concerned. But they've got their own giant footprints they're making. Mackenzie Aston, as most of you watching must know, is on The Facts of Life. And Sean Aston is a movie star.
A movie star?
Yes, he does features, please.
I think we have a picture here of you and the two boys.
There they are. Now, they're much bigger and even more beautiful than they are in this picture right now. See, Sean is 16 and a half, and Mackenzie is 14 and some months. And they're still tolerating me. You know, I really believe that they've raised me, certainly for the last 10 years.
Did you encourage them to go into acting?
I didn't. I didn't want them to do this because I had a distorted picture of really what acting is for children. I thought it was going to be kind of the terrible time I had. And once I came to realize that really it wasn't show business that gave me a terrible time. It was a set of circumstances with which I was putting up as a human being in my growing up years that gave me the problem. So they're talented. They are decent, nice people with good sense of humor like yours. And so far, so good. So I do encourage it now.
Because, yeah, as a child, you had in your book, you talk about all the things that...
that's my real name, Anna.
Anna.
You can call me Joe if you want, but my name is Anna.
Now, who changed your name?
The folks I lived with, actually, who became my surrogate parents through odd circumstances, named John and Ethel Ross. When I was about 8 years old, or I was 8 years old, they said, "Now, Anna Marie is dead. You're Patty now." Which is a little tough to absorb when you're 48. At 8, it really did throw me quite for a loop because the name was kind of tied up in the family and the whole thing, and it was kind of the beginning of the end of my relationship with my family until, thank God, a number of years later, I was able to resurrect it happily.
I mean, your kids ever think about changing their names?
Oh, sure they do. Rambo.
Yeah, they want.
Robert Redford. Mackenzie occasionally refers to himself as that. Actually, he looks like Robert Redford.
Yeah, they're good. He's good. I've seen him on Facts of Life.
Yeah.
Good.
He's almost as good looking as the baby. But...
Oh, well, the baby's only one.
Yeah, I know.
He'll grow into it. And you're recently married, they tell me?
I am.
Congratulations.
Indeed. Thank you.
How long have you been married?
We've been married a year and 3 months or 4 months. I never know what day it is anymore. And a crazy thing, yet another crazy thing happened to me on my way to a job. I married a drill sergeant from the United States Army who was my drill sergeant, actually, assigned to me to teach me how to go through basic training for a film. And actually, it's probably a communist plot to get all the drill sergeants out of the Army.
Yeah, they always think of drill... I mean, Lou Gossett in that movie, he gave drill sergeants a bad...
He's not like that. I'm the drill sergeant.
He's actually... He's into needlepoint? This doesn't seem traditional.
Oh, this is a new thing with us. Now, see, I used to needlepoint, and I went back to it because I wanted to quit smoking. That didn't work, so now I smoke and needlepoint and, you know, anything else that can happen. But my husband, the drill sergeant, okay, this is mine. This is my new one. Now, don't make fun. It's very basic, okay? I'm not all that creative. Thank you.
What goes in here? Does something go in there?
I can't tell you what goes in there.
A little
because I don't know yet. I'm waiting for the drill sergeant to tell me. Anyway, okay, so that's mine, and it's okay, and you're very kind. Now, this really aggravates me. This belongs to Michael Pierce, the ex-drill sergeant. And I'm holding it upside down, he'll kill me. Now, this is a big, gorgeous guy who freaked out the other day because he ran out of white wool and the store was closed. But that's all right. He charmed them into opening it up.
Yeah, I'll get him to open it up.
Open up, sure. Give me my white wool. Anyway, Mike and I do this. He said something wonderful. He said what this affords him in our relationship, we spend 24 hours a day together, by choice. But, you know, a minute or two can get a little aggravating, you know, after 23 and a half hours. He said, what this does is it allows us to be together, but really apart, because your minds kind of go into here and your thoughts stray to wherever you want them to. And if he does anything dirty on here, I'll kill him.
Well, come back anytime when these are
Isn't it
finished.
nice?
That's
Aren't
beautiful.
you jealous?
I don't do anything like that.
You should take this so you could do it while you talk to people.
Think so? Patty, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Patty Duke, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back with more of the show right after this. Don't go away.
Patty Duke, the actress, lived a real-life nightmare, and it nearly cost her her life. A while back, in an Emmy Award-winning interview, Hugh talked with her about her illness and her mission to save others from what she calls the black hole. It is her painful story that has helped save many from their pain. And so tonight, we wanted to bring you again, perhaps one of the most honest and courageous stories that we've ever aired.
There was something in me, and I remember very well, in the black hole, thinking, if I ever get out of this, I'm going to make sure that nobody I know ever feels this way again.
When Patty Duke first made that promise to herself, she did not believe she could ever act on it. But today, a healthier and much happier Patty Duke is doing just that, which brings her on this particular occasion to Washington with her husband Michael Pierce and baby Kevin. She has come here to testify before a Senate subcommittee, hoping to raise the level of money and awareness about mental illness.
In 1982, I was diagnosed as manic depressive. My mental illness is a genetic, chemical imbalance of the brain. It manifests itself in dramatic mood swings from states of euphoria or agitated, out-of-control highs to disabling, often suicidal lows. From the onset of the symptoms of this illness in my late teens until proper diagnosis and treatment at the age of 35, I rode the wild roller coaster.
As a young actress, Patty Duke made an indelible impression on anyone who saw her play the role of Helen Keller in The Miracle Worker, with Anne Bancroft as her teacher, Annie Sullivan. Her extraordinary portrayal of the girl who couldn't see and couldn't hear earned her critical acclaim first on Broadway at age 13 and then in the motion picture. In 1962, she became the youngest actress up until that time to win an Academy Award. A national celebrity at age 16, she began starring in her own television series, The Patty Duke Show, playing the role of two cousins with very different personalities. Ironically, behind the public Patty Duke, there was also a different personality, a young girl whose given name was Anna, who was beginning a descent into a private hell.
I knew at a very young age that something was not right. Or even more intensely, there was something wrong with me. Again, I thought it was just that I was not a good person, that I didn't try hard enough. It didn't become apparent, again, as with many people. The illness itself doesn't, the symptoms, the very overt symptoms, didn't start till my late teens. And that was with a manic episode.
Now, when you say manic depressive, the words, the manic is a high and the depressed is a low. What are the symptoms? What kind of things did you find yourself doing when you're in the manic phase of it?
In mania, I spent a great deal of money for things I didn't need. Now, that seems a silly symptom, but it's a symptom of the illness. Flights of fancy, meaning, almost delusions of grandeur. You feel euphoric. You feel nothing you do has any kind of negative consequence. You can go anywhere, say anything, be anybody you want, marry anybody you want. I married somebody I didn't know for 13 days. I didn't know this man. I sublet my apartment to him, and the next thing I knew, I was in Las Vegas marrying him. And it seemed just sort of okay. It was as if you said to me, would you like a turkey sandwich? And I said, oh, all right, fine.
Now, between that part of the cycle and the depressed part, was there a brief interval of what would be normal, or did you crash right away?
Again, as the cycles increased in frequency, they also increased in intensity, so that the span of sort of level time got shorter and shorter as the years went on. There would usually be a manic and a depressive cycle every 3 to 4 months. The depressive end lasting much longer. The deep black hole from which you cannot extricate yourself.
The illness that Anna is describing in painful detail is shared by over 2 million Americans. We played excerpts of Anna's interview for Dr. Donald Klein, Director of Research at New York State Psychiatric Institute. We asked him whether Anna's description of her manic depression struck a familiar chord with him.
I was really impressed. She was 99.99% bang on. She really described it well, accurately, thoughtfully.
How large a role does genetics play in this disease?
Depressive illness runs in families. That's clear.
Yes, my mother was diagnosed only 10 years ago as being unipolar or clinically depressed.
Just depression, and not
right.
the
She didn't have the good end. She didn't get up there, sort of
That's kind of being cheated.
on the trapeze, on the high wire.
You say, what, if it's genetic, how can it be precipitated? Or what can precipitate it? Now, you must understand, there's all sorts of things that are genetic, like heart disease, that can be precipitated. If somebody has a weak heart and they go skiing and they eat a lot of salt, they can throw themselves into congestive failure. What having an organic illness, a genetic illness does is make you more vulnerable to the environment.
The environment that fueled Anna's illness was a traumatic childhood. Her alcoholic father left when she was 7. Her mother struggled with her own undiagnosed depression, and young Anna and her brother earned money by taking modeling and acting jobs. In time, Anna's upbringing was taken over nearly completely by her strict acting coaches. One day, the obedient young girl learned that her name had been changed to Patty Duke. Anna is dead, she was told. But Anna was very much alive, and from her late teens, when the disease began to assert itself, until she was diagnosed at age 35, she was tossed between euphoric highs and crushing lows.
Everybody knows what it's like to feel really sad about something. This sort of depression goes even further than that. And it's based not on any real stimulus. And you feel completely alone. And even if there are people around you telling you that they love you, showing you that they love you, demonstrating support, it's terrible to say, but it's meaningless. Whatever this thing is that takes over you, that says that you are worthless, that really the only answer is to kill yourself, is so much more powerful that that's the calling you relate to.
And I know it's a sensitive area, but I think it's important to get your views on your attempts to take your life. When you really took steps to do that, what happened? What did you do?
I did it a lot of times. So the methods varied. I usually took overdoses of pills. I didn't have pills that could do that because my doctors were aware of my instability, and so I was never given prescriptions like that. But I would get them out of other people's medicine chests and save them for what I knew would be one of those really down times. And it usually came after some sort of argument that I had begun either with my husband or children, and my behavior would be so angry and so vicious that I then couldn't live with that guilt, and they were better off without me. And I